The Prime Minister's announcement yesterday evening brought a gravity to what has been advised to us all. Return home. As we bunker down in our homes for the next few weeks, I wanted to suggest a book that talks a lot about returning home. The Return of the Prodigal Son by the Dutch theologian Henry Nouwen. In it, he reflects on a famous painting by Rembrandt of one of Jesus' most well-known parables about a son returning home to his father's house. The older brother looking on in judgment, and the father embracing his lost child. Nouwen recognises himself in each of these three main characters, starting with the son that returns home. The thing with a return is that it means there has been a leaving, a coming back after having gone away. Jesus starts the parable saying, "We're like a son that asks his father, 'Give me my share of the estate.'" He asks for his share of the inheritance, basically saying to his dad, "I wish you were dead and I want what's coming to me now." He goes off and he wastes his money on drink and on women. We might think, well, I haven't wished that God is dead, but the Bible depicts a God who calls out to the creation he has made as a father who calls out to his children. Whoever we are made to know God, to live in loving relationship with him as our dad. So leaving home, Nouwen says, is being deaf to the voice of the one who lovingly calls out to us. We leave home every time we're deaf to the voice that calls us son or daughter, and we forget our identity as his children. We travel into the distant land when we are deaf to the voice that calls us beloved. So often the voice of God is spoken softly and subtly amongst a tirade of other voices in the world that call us away from our home with him. Voices of wealth calling us to find worth in our money, to find meaning in our paycheck. Voices of power calling us to find worth in our jobs or in our status. Voices of approval calling us to find worth in our relationships, maybe even voices of fear calling us to lose all hope in the face of a global pandemic. We leave our Father's house when we let the noise and the chaos of the world drown out our Father's steady whisper that we are loved, that we are his children. Rembrandt himself recognised something of his own life in the prodigal son. This parable from Jesus was one he returned to numerous times throughout his career in different ways. In his younger years, Rembrandt fitted all the characteristics of the prodigal son: brash, self-confident, extravagant with his money, sensual, perhaps a little arrogant. At the age of 30, Rembrandt painted himself with his wife, Saskia, as the lost son in a brothel. Drunk, his mouth hangs half open with sexually greedy eyes. He glares back at the painter, almost daring his father to stop him from enjoying himself. With his right hand, he lifts up a half-empty glass. With his left, he touches the lower back of the woman whose eyes are no less lustful than his own. Rembrandt's long curly hair flow down from beneath an extravagant cap with a large white feather that he would so often paint himself in these sorts of clothes during his career. From this point in his life, Rembrandt was no stranger to heartache and loneliness. He married twice, losing both of his wives to illness, as well as 5 of his 6 children. As we look at the son who returns home to his father, we can't help but recognise that this self-confident and venerated artist has come to the painful realisation that all the glory he had gathered for himself proved to be worthless. Instead of the fancy clothes that Rembrandt painted himself with in the brothel, he now only wears a torn undertunic that barely covers his body. The sandals in which he has walked so far have become worn out and useless. The long, curly hair is gone, replaced with a shaved head of a prisoner of his own life. The main source of light in the painting doesn't come from any golden chains or shining helmets, like in Rembrandt's earlier work, but only from the shining face of the father, welcoming his son home.